It was the rooftop garden in Seoul, city lights blazing 30 floors below us, when the man who once told me he wanted nothing to do with me tucked a braid behind my ear and whispered, "You make me forget every reason I built these walls." This man, who interviewed me like a suspect, who told me on day one, "You seem kind and that is exactly why I want nothing to do with you personally. Let me take you back to where this impossible love story began." Hit subscribe. This is going to be spicy and you don't want to miss a bit of it. Welcome, besties. Say hi in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. To my returning besties, if you stop in the middle of this story, you will have dreams wondering how it ended. So to avoid that curiosity, make sure you stay with us till the very end. I promise you will not regret it. And if you enjoy Afro-Korean stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and share it with someone who would love it too. 3 years earlier. The first thing I noticed about Toronto in January was that the cold had a personality. Back home in Nairobi, Kenya, cold was just the absence of sun. Manageable. Temporary. But Canadian cold had opinions. It pushed through your coat and made itself comfortable like an uninvited guest who had no intention of leaving. I was 25, freshly arrived on a work permit, clutching a job offer from a luxury hotel management company that had recruited me straight out of university. My mother had cried at the airport. My younger brother Kofi had pretended not to. My aunt had pressed a small bottle of anointing oil into my hand and told me to rub it on every door I entered. I kept the oil. I needed it. Because 6 weeks after arriving in Toronto, the company that hired me was acquired. The new owners restructured. My department was dissolved. My work permit was tied to that specific employer. Just like that, I had 90 days to find a new sponsor or go home. I was not going home. I picked up every shift I could at a restaurant near my apartment, sent home less than I had promised, and started applying everywhere. Hotels, event management companies, corporate hospitality firms, anywhere that might look at my CV and see something worth keeping. Most did not respond. One did. The email came on a Thursday night when I was sitting on the floor of my tiny apartment eating jicama and rice because I had forgotten to buy anything else. Dear Ms. Amara Asante, we are pleased to invite you for an interview for the position of Executive Hospitality Coordinator at Park Global Holdings, Toronto branch. The role involves managing VIP guest experience for our chairman during his North American operations. I read it 4 times. Park Global Holdings. Even I knew that name. One of the largest private investment conglomerates in South Korea. Offices in 12 countries. The kind of company that appeared in financial news next to words like empire and dynasty. I ironed my best blouse, polished my shoes until I could see my reflection in them, and told myself that whatever happened in that interview room, and I was going to walk in like I already had the job. The interview was on the 42nd floor of a glass tower in the financial district. The HR director, a precise Korean woman named Ms. Yoon, asked me 45 minutes of questions with the kind of focused attention that made me feel simultaneously seen and dissected. At the end, she folded her hands on the table. One final thing, Miss Asante. This position requires close daily coordination with Chairman Park Jae-won himself. He is... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Particular. Demanding. And he has a history of requesting replacements for staff who cannot maintain professional composure under pressure. What kind of pressure? She looked at me steadily. He does not believe in warmth in professional settings. He communicates directly, sometimes bluntly. Previous coordinators found his manner difficult. How many previous coordinators? A pause. 4. In 18 months. I nodded slowly. Ms. Yoon, I grew up as the oldest of 5 children in a 3-bedroom house in Nairobi with a mother who worked double hospital shifts and a father who ran a small transport business with drivers who had more opinions than sense. I have been managing difficult personalities since I was 9 years old. I kept my voice level. I can handle particular. She almost smiled. I got the job. My first meeting with Park Jae-won lasted 6 minutes. He was on a call when I was shown into his office, standing at the floor-to-ceiling window with his back to the door. Black suit, no tie, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his phone. He did not acknowledge my arrival for a full 90 seconds. When he finally turned, I understood immediately what Ms. Yoon had meant. He was strikingly handsome in the way that powerful men sometimes were, not soft, not approachable, but precise. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that moved over you like a scan rather than a look. He appeared to be in his early 30s but carried the stillness of someone much older, someone who had been through something that aged them on the inside. He looked at me the way you look at a new piece of office furniture. Assessing. Neutral. Amara Asante. Nairobi. University of Ghana. Hospitality management. 2 years corporate experience before your previous employer collapsed. He said it without looking at a file, which meant he had already memorized it. You speak English, Twi, Swahili and basic French? Yes, sir. Good. I have a dinner with the Canadian Trade Minister on Friday. I need the seating arrangements revised, the menu adapted for 2 guests with dietary restrictions. I will send you tonight, and a background brief on everyone attending. Can you have that ready by Thursday morning? Yes. I also need... He stopped, looked at me more directly. You seem kind. It was such an odd thing to say that I blinked. I'm sorry. Your face. You have one of those faces. He said it without warmth, almost like an accusation. Kind, open. People probably tell you things they don't mean to tell you. I did not know what to say to that. That is exactly why I want nothing to do with you personally, he continued, turning back to his window. Do your job. Do it well. Keep it professional. That is all I need from you. Understood? I stood there for a moment, and genuinely taken aback. Then I straightened my shoulders. Understood, sir. I'll have everything ready by Thursday morning. He did not respond. The meeting was over. I walked out of that office and stood in the corridor for exactly 5 seconds. What on earth, I thought, have I agreed to? Besties, are you feeling this already? Drop I'm hooked in the comments if you are. And if you're watching from the USA, UK, Canada, or Australia, say your country too. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Now let's continue, because it's about to get complicated. The first 2 weeks I was invisible. That was not a complaint. Jae-won ran his operations like a precision instrument. He wanted things done before he asked for them, problems solved before he noticed them, and absolutely zero personal conversation. I delivered. I was good at my job and I knew it. But on the 15th day, something shifted. I arrived at the office at 7 in the morning for a routine schedule review and found him already there, still in yesterday's suit, a coffee going cold on the desk beside 3 monitors and what appeared to be the remnants of a night-long work session. I set down the revised schedule. Sir, the Seoul board call has been pushed to 9. You have 45 minutes. He did not look up. I turned to leave. My father built this company from a single import business in Busan, he said suddenly. I stopped. He worked until his hands bled, literally. I watched him patch his own wounds at the kitchen table because he could not afford to stop and see a doctor. His voice was flat, reciting rather than sharing. He died before he saw what it became. I turned slowly. He was still looking at his screen. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be. It made me what I am. He finally looked up, and something flickered behind his eyes before the shutters came down again. The schedule. Leave it on the desk. It's already there. He glanced at the desk, nodded once, looked away. I left. But I thought about that moment for the rest of the day. The way it came out of nowhere. The way he shut it down the instant it started to mean something. Like a man who had forgotten that sharing a thing was allowed, and then immediately remembered why he had stopped. Over the following weeks, I learned, without being told, the shape of Park Jae-won's damage. It came in fragments. A comment from Ms. Yoon about a woman named Seo-Yeon, who had been his fiancée. A lowered voice from one of the junior staff. She worked for a competitor. They were together 2 years. Nobody knew until the deal collapsed and his father's business nearly went with it. A photograph I found when reorganizing archived files. A younger Jae-won actually smiling, arm around a beautiful Korean woman at what looked like a company gala. He had loved her. She had used that love to feed information to people who wanted to destroy his family's company. And when it all came apart, when his father died of a heart attack 6 months later, a heart attack the family quietly blamed on the stress of that betrayal, Jae-won had buried everything. Every softness, every opening, every possibility of trust. He had built a wall so high and so smooth that there was nothing to hold on to. And then he hired me. And I was not foolish enough to think I could change him. I was not even trying. I was trying to keep my work permit and send money home to Nairobi and maybe, one day, sleep a full 8 hours. But life, I have learned, rarely asks you what you are trying to do. It started with a crisis. 3 weeks into the job, a major deal Jae-won had been structuring for 8 months began to collapse. The Canadian partner pulled out without warning. The legal team was in chaos. The Seoul board was calling every hour. And in the middle of all of it, Jae-won's assistant, not me, his senior personal assistant, who handled his private schedule, quit without notice, leaving a gap in a week that included a charity gala, a government meeting, and a board dinner. Ms. Yoon appeared at my desk at 10 in the morning, looking the way people look when they are about to ask you for something unreasonable. We need you to step into the senior assistant role temporarily. For how long? Until we find a replacement. How long has that position been vacant before? A pause. 4 months. The last time. I looked at her. She looked at me. There will be a salary adjustment, she said. I took the role. That night I stayed until 11, restructuring the week's schedule and briefing documents. I was about to leave when I realized the light was still on in Jae-won's office. I knocked. Come. He was sitting at his desk but not working, just sitting, jacket off, sleeves rolled to the elbows, staring at nothing. He looked for the first time since I had met him, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with work. I've restructured the week, I said, setting the folder on his desk. The gala has been moved to Friday, the government meeting is now a breakfast, and the board dinner has a confirmed backup venue, in case the original falls through. He looked at the folder, then at me. You did all of this tonight? It needed to be done. He opened the folder, read through it in silence, turned a page, read again. This is better than what Cho would have done, he said. Cho was the assistant who had quit. Thank you. It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. But the corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile, more like his face was remembering that a smile was a thing that existed. Go home, Miss Asante. It's late. Good night, sir. I was at the door when he spoke again. Amara. First name, first time. I turned. Thank you, he said, quietly, like it cost him something. I nodded once and left, and standing in the elevator going down, I felt something I had not expected. Not triumph, not professionalism. Something warmer and considerably more inconvenient than either of those things. I pressed the lobby button and told myself firmly to stop it. Besties, I need to ask you something. Have you ever met someone who was clearly hurting, and everything in you wanted to reach them even when they were pushing you away? Drop love heals in the comments if you believe that kind of love is real. And to my viewers in the USA, Canada, UK, Australia and beyond, I see you. Let's keep going. This is where it gets really good. The week of the gala, Jae-won and I spent more time in the same room than we ever had before. Logistics required it. But something else was happening underneath the logistics, slow and quiet, like a river moving under ice. He started asking my opinion on things that were not strictly my job. the tone of a speech, whether a particular gift for a government contact was appropriate or excessive. Once, inexplicably, whether I thought the new lobby art installation was pretentious. "It's very expensive pretentiousness," I said, which made him actually stop walking and look at me. "That's exactly what I thought. You could have just said so when they proposed it. I pay people to make those decisions. You also pay me to coordinate your schedule, and I just gave you a genuine art critique, so..." He looked at me for a moment with an expression I could not fully read. Then he kept walking. But after that, something loosened. Just slightly. Just enough to notice. The gala was a success. The board dinner went smoothly. The collapsed deal found a new partner 2 weeks later. Life in the office returned to something resembling normal. But the temporary arrangement was quietly becoming permanent, and both of us were pretending not to notice. One evening, about 6 weeks in, I was working late again. It had become a habit, one I was still telling myself I would break, when he appeared in the doorway of the small office I had been given. "Have you eaten?" I looked up. "Sorry?" "Food. Have you had any today?" I thought about it. Coffee at 7, a granola bar at noon. "More or less." He made a sound that might have been disapproval. "Come." "Where?" "The kitchen." I ordered too much. I followed him to the executive floor kitchen where, inexplicably, there were containers of Korean food spread across the counter. Japchae, galbi, kimchi jjigae, rice. "You ordered all of this for yourself?" "I ordered for a meeting that was cancelled." He was already pulling out plates with the practicality of a man who found the logistics of eating deeply unromantic. "Sit." I sat. We ate in silence for a few minutes. It was good food. Genuinely good. "This japchae is incredible," I said. "It's from a place in Koreatown. The owner is from Busan. He makes it the way my mother used to." He said it simply, without drama. Then seemed to realize he had said it. His jaw tightened slightly. "Your mother was a good cook?" I asked, keeping my voice easy. A pause. "Yes." He looked at his food. "She died when I was 17, breast cancer. By the time they found it, or it was already too late." I set down my chopsticks. "Jae-won, I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. That doesn't make it not painful." He was quiet for a moment. "No," he said finally, "it doesn't." We sat with that for a while, not uncomfortably. The silence had changed since the first weeks. It had texture now, warmth in it. "Tell me about your family," he said suddenly. I looked at him. He was looking at his food, not at me, like the question had escaped before he could stop it. "My mother is a nurse," I said. "She worked night shifts for 15 years to make sure we had everything we needed. My brother Kofi is 22 and studying engineering and sending me voice notes every 3 days asking when I'm coming home." I paused. "She cried when I left for Toronto. She pretended it was allergies." Something moved across his face. "Mothers," he said quietly. "Yes, you miss her. Every single day." He looked up then, directly at me. And for a moment the careful professional distance collapsed entirely, and I saw him, really saw him, a man who had lost his mother too young and his father to grief and the woman he loved to betrayal. A man who had decided the only safe thing was to feel nothing. "You should call her tonight," he said. "Don't work late on my account." "I choose to work late." "Amara." His voice was soft in a way I had not heard before. "Call your mother." I called my mother. After that night, the walls did not come down, but doors appeared in them. Small ones, unexpected ones. He started sending me home at reasonable hours, started asking about Kofi and my mother by name, started once or twice laughing at something I said, real laughter, our brief and slightly startled, like he was surprised by his own capacity for it. And I started looking forward to work in a way that had nothing to do with the job description, which was a problem. Because Park Jae-won had told me, on the very first day, exactly who he was and exactly what he wanted. Nothing personal. I had heard him. I had agreed. And now here I was, 6 weeks later, thinking about the way his face looked when he talked about his mother's cooking, and knowing with the resigned clarity of someone watching a slow-motion disaster that I was in serious trouble. Besties. Only people who don't believe in second chances will scroll past without liking this video right now. But you're not that person. You know that broken people deserve love too. Hit that like button and let's keep going, because this is about to take a turn. It happened on a Tuesday in March. We had been working on a proposal together, the two of us alone in the boardroom, spread across the long table with files and coffee cups and laptops. It was nearly midnight. The city outside the windows was quiet. Jae-won was reading something, his brow slightly furrowed, one hand propped against his jaw. I was cross-referencing 2 documents and reaching for my cold coffee at the same time, and I knocked an entire cup directly onto the proposal draft. I gasped, grabbed the papers, started mopping with whatever I could find. I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. Hey. His hand covered mine, gently, stopping the frantic motion. It's fine. We have digital copies. I looked up, and he was closer than I had realized. He had moved to help without me noticing, and suddenly we were 6 inches apart with his hand over mine, and both of us very still. I watched something happen in his eyes. A recognition, a pulling back, a decision being made in real time. He let go of my hand, sat back, cleared his throat. I'll print a new copy tomorrow. Right. My voice was slightly unsteady. Good idea. We worked for another hour without speaking about anything that wasn't the proposal. But something had shifted. Something both of us were now pretending had not shifted. 2 days later, he called me into his office and closed the door. I need to tell you something. I sat down, keeping my face professional. 3 years ago, I was engaged. His voice was level. Her name was Seo-Yeon. We were together for 2 years. I trusted her completely. She was feeding information about our company's acquisition strategy to a competitor. He paused. When it came out, my father found out the morning we were meant to close the most important deal of his career. He had a heart attack that evening. Another pause. He survived, but he never fully recovered. He died 8 months later. I said nothing. I just listened. I tell you this not because it is your business, he said, but because I am aware that I have been, he searched for the word, allowing a proximity that I did not intend to allow, and I want to be honest with you about why that is complicated for me. Jae-won, I am not a man who trusts easily, or at all, currently. He looked at me directly. And you are someone I find myself wanting to trust, which is precisely the situation I swore I would never be in again. The honesty of it hit me somewhere deep. What are you saying? I asked carefully. I am saying that I notice you, Amara. I notice you constantly, and it is interrupting my work, and I am not accustomed to being interrupted. He said it like a confession being made reluctantly. I don't know what to do with that. I was quiet for a moment. Can I be honest with you? I'm asking you to be. I notice you too. I have been trying very hard not to. I held his gaze. And I hear what you're telling me about Seo-Yeon. I understand why you built those walls. I'm not asking you to tear them down. I paused, but I'm also not her. And I think some part of you knows that. He looked at me for a long time. The part of me that knows that, he said quietly, is exactly the part I can't trust. He pulled back after that. Not completely, not cruelly, but the doors that had appeared in the walls closed again, quietly and firmly. He was professional, courteous, correct in every way. And it hurt in a way I had not given myself permission to anticipate. I threw myself into work. I called my mother more. I told Kofi nothing because he would have had 17 opinions and none of them useful. But there were moments, small, unguarded moments, that told me Jae-won was not as resolved as he was pretending to be. The way he looked at me when he thought I was not looking. The way he stopped whatever he was doing when I walked into a room. The way he once started to say something, stopped himself, and then spent the next 20 minutes in a mood that his entire staff tiptoeing around him. He was fighting something, and then one night it stopped being something either of us could navigate professionally. I was at my desk at 7 in the evening when Ms. Yoon appeared looking genuinely alarmed, which for Ms. Yoon was the equivalent of a 5-alarm fire. There's a woman downstairs requesting to see Chairman Park. She says her name is Seo-Yeon. Everything in the room seemed to go very quiet. Does he know? Not yet. She bypassed reception. Security flagged her. Don't let her up. I was already standing. I'll tell him. I knocked on his office door, walked in, closed it behind me. He looked up, reading my face immediately. His own face went very still. Who is it? Seo-Yeon is downstairs. 3 seconds of absolute silence. Then he stood, slowly, and turned to the window. His hands were clasped behind his back so tightly his knuckles went pale. She wants to see you, I said carefully. Security is holding her. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. Then what do you want to do? A long pause. What I want, he said, his voice very controlled, is for the last 3 years to not have happened. What I want is my father back. What I want is to have never. He stopped, breathed. Send her away. Okay. Amara. I stopped at the door. He was still facing the window, but his voice had changed. Something stripped from it, something raw underneath. Do you know what the worst part is? Not the betrayal. The betrayal I could understand. People want things. People make choices. The worst part was that I genuinely could not tell. He paused. I thought I knew her. I thought I was someone who could read people, and I was completely wrong. And my father paid for that mistake with his life. I walked back to his desk slowly, not close enough to crowd him, just close enough to be present. That wasn't your failure, I said. She deceived you deliberately. That is her failure and her shame, not yours. He turned then. And for the first time since I had known him, Park Jae-won looked not like a man in control of everything, but like someone who was simply tired, deeply, historically tired. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's true. He looked at me, really looked at me, the way he had in the kitchen that night, like the professional layer had dissolved and we were just 2 people in a room. Why are you still here, Amara? 4 assistants before you left. And I was deliberately cold to you the day we met. I have given you every reason, because you're worth staying for, I said, quietly, without drama, even when you're trying very hard to convince me otherwise. Something broke in his face. He crossed the room in 3 strides and his hands came up and framed my face the way you hold something you are terrified of dropping, and he kissed me. It was not a soft kiss. It was 3 years of walls and grief and loneliness, and all of it pressed into one moment. My hands gripped the front of his shirt and I kissed him back with everything I had been carefully, professionally, sensibly, not feeling for months. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing hard, his forehead came down to rest against mine. I have no idea how to do this, he said. I have no idea how to be someone who trusts again. You don't have to know how, I said. You just have to be willing to try. He closed his eyes. I'm willing, he said. God help me, I'm willing. The weeks after that were the best and most terrifying of my life. We were careful, private. Jae-won was not a man who performed emotions publicly, and I was not a woman who needed him to. What we had was quiet and real and enormous. He cooked for me on Sunday evenings, galbi and jjigae and the japchae from his mother's recipe, which he had eventually learned to make himself. I brought him Ghanaian pepper soup that my mother sent in packets and watched his eyes go wide at the heat. He came back for a second bowl. This is what your mother makes? He asked. Every Sunday. Her version is hotter than this. I would like to meet a woman who makes something hotter than this. She would like you, I said. She has a weakness for serious men with good table manners. He smiled at that, the real smile, the one that reached his eyes and stayed. But love that costs nothing is not love, it is convenience. And what Jae-won and I had was going to cost something. Seo-Yeon had not simply gone away. 2 weeks after I sent her from the building, a story appeared in a Korean business blog. Anonymous, but specific enough to be pointed. It described a Park Global Holdings executive entering a personal relationship with a staff member. It questioned professional boundaries. It included details that could only have come from someone with inside knowledge. The Seoul board called an emergency meeting. Jae-won came to me the morning before the call, calm in the way he was always calm when something serious was happening. The board is going to request that one of us moves to a different role. Possibly that you're let go entirely. He watched my face. I want to be transparent with you before I go into that meeting. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. What are you going to say to them? That my personal life is my personal life, that you are exceptional at your job, that anyone who wants to question your competence is welcome to review the last 8 months of work product, his jaw set, and that I am not Seo-Yeon. I do not make decisions about people I care about based on what is convenient for my board. Jae-won, don't damage your company for me. I'm not. He looked at me directly. I'm protecting it. Good people are not something you sacrifice for optics. My father taught me that. Before everything else, he taught me that. He went into that call. He was in there for 2 hours. I sat at my desk and worked, because that was the only thing I could control. When he came out, he walked directly to my office, opened the door and said, "Still employed. Board overruled." They did want me to note formally that they found the situation irregular. The corner of his mouth moved. I told them I found it exceptional. I let out a breath I had been holding for 2 hours. Exceptional, I repeated. You, he said, are exceptional. I needed to be on the record about that. Besties, we are almost at the end, and I need you to stay with me because this is the part that will make it all worth it. 6 months later, Seoul, the rooftop garden, the city blazing gold and silver below, and Park Jae-won tucking a braid behind my ear and telling me I made him forget every reason he built his walls. What happened to Seo-Yeon? I asked, because I had never asked before and somehow tonight felt like the night for true things. She tried to sell a story to 2 more publications. Neither ran it. He paused. I think she expected to still have a hold over me. Fear of exposure. Fear of the past. He looked at me. But I'm not afraid anymore. Because of me? Because of you. Because of choosing to trust again after everything it cost to lose it. He lifted my hand and held it to his chest. I can feel my heart, Amara. I have been walking around for 3 years barely alive, and now I feel everything. Joy, fear, anger, peace, you. He shook his head slightly. Oh, you. Jae-won, I had a conversation with your mother last week. I stared at him. You did what? I called her. I asked her permission. He was reaching into his jacket pocket, and I was suddenly completely still. She said yes. She also said she wanted me to know that if I hurt you, she would fly to Seoul personally, and I should take that seriously. She absolutely would. I took it very seriously. He opened the small box. Inside was a ring, white gold and diamonds, clean and elegant, and nothing like a performance, everything like him. I am not a poet. I have already established this, so I'll say what's true. You walked into my life when I had given up on every good thing, and you were so relentlessly, unreasonably present that I had no choice but to come back to life. He looked up at me. Marry me, Amara. Not because I need saving, but because I cannot imagine a single version of the future that I want more than the one that has you in it. Tears were running down my face, and I had completely abandoned any attempt to stop them. Yes, I said. Obviously, yes. Yes. He slid the ring onto my finger and stood, and I wrapped my arms around him and held on, and below us Seoul glittered in every direction, and somewhere in Nairobi my mother was about to get a phone call that would make her cry and claim it was allergies. "I love you," he said against my hair. "I love you too." I pulled back to look at him. "Even when you were impossible." "I was always impossible." "You were worth it." He smiled. That real smile, the one that had taken months to earn, the one that changed his whole face, and kissed me again, slow and certain. I like a man who had finally decided to stop being afraid of the best thing that had ever happened to him. And that, besties, is how a man who swore he would never trust a woman again gave his whole heart to one African girl who refused to give up on him. If this story touched you, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button if you believe love can heal even the deepest wounds. Comment beautiful if you felt every moment of this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, listen, not subscribing means you're siding with Seo-Yeon, the woman who betrayed Jae-won, fed his secrets to his enemies, and tried to destroy what he and Amara built even after it was over. You're not on her side, are you? Of course you're not. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. And share this video with someone who needs to believe in second chances today. To everyone watching from the USA, Canada, the UK, Australia, and everywhere else in the world, drop your location in the comments. I want to know where all my beautiful besties are. Jae-won and Amara made it. Against betrayal, against grief, against every wall that fear had built. And if they made it, so can you. Until next time, besties, keep believing in love that transforms. I'll see you in the next story.